Ladies and gentlemen, we're thrilled to present The Billionaire's Disguise, a Test of Hearts. This captivating tale follows a hidden billionaire, Adam, who uses a humble facade to test love and expose deceit. Will genuine connection triumph over materialism? Before we begin, please consider subscribing for more compelling stories. Enjoy. The morning air in downtown New York crackled with an energy that felt almost tangible, a chaotic symphony of honking cabs and hurried footsteps. For Adam Sterling, however, the usual urban hum was a distant echo, drowned out by the internal clamor of his own discontent. He moved through the throng of commuters like a phantom, his bespoke suit a mere costume, his perfect posture a facade. Today was no ordinary Tuesday. It was the day the mask felt heaviest, threatening to crack under the weight of its own deception. Adam, a name synonymous with towering skyscrapers and shrewd global investments, was about to step into a new role, that of a struggling everyman. He was just turning into the gleaming lobby of Sterling Corp., a testament to his family's legacy and his own, when fate, in the form of a forgotten coffee cup, intervened. A young woman, her hair a loose cascade of auburn, her eyes wide with a mixture of determination and harried nerves, stumbled directly into him. A sickening whoosh followed by a hot, bitter splash stained the pristine white of his custom-made shirt. "Oh my God, I am so sorry," a breathless voice exclaimed, laced with genuine panic. Anna Ramirez, a fresh face, barely a week into her new administrative assistant job at Sterling Corp., stood frozen, her eyes fixed on the blossoming coffee stain. Her small, humble backpack seemed too large for her slender frame, and her worn sneakers spoke of long walks and practicalities. She looked utterly mortified, her cheeks flushing a deep crimson that spread to the tips of her ears. I can get you a new one or pay for the dry cleaning. Please, mister, I am so sorry." Adam looked down at his ruined shirt, a faint, almost imperceptible twitch at the corner of his lips. The silk felt sticky and warm against his skin, a stark contrast to the icy coldness he'd been cultivating in his heart. He simply observed her, a flicker of something akin to curiosity in his usually impassive gaze. There was no pretense in her apology, no calculation, just raw, unadulterated mortification. He saw the genuine distress in her wide hazel eyes, mirroring the guilt of a child caught with a hand in the cookie jar. He shook his head slightly, a silent dismissal, and walked past her, leaving Anna rooted to the spot, a crumpled coffee cup in her hand, a single drop of brown liquid clinging to her chin like a tear. He didn't need a new shirt, nor did he care about the dry cleaning. His mind was elsewhere, already shifting gears for the elaborate charade he was about to resume. Adam's steps carried him not to his penthouse office, but to a run-down apartment building on the fringes of the city, a stark juxtaposition to his own lavish residence overlooking Central Park. This dingy building was home to Lyly Dubois, his current girlfriend, and her family. Lyly, with her striking features and an air of refined elegance, had captivated him initially. Yet the layers of her family's expectations had begun to smother any genuine spark. He ascended the creaking stairs, each step a further descent into his self-imposed poverty. The scent of stale cooking oil and dampness clung to the air, a world away from the pristine, climate-controlled environments he inhabited. He knocked on the door, steeling himself for the familiar symphony of complaints and thinly veiled disdain. Lyly's mother, Mrs. Dubois, answered, her eyes, once sparkling with a faint hope, now narrowed with disappointment at the sight of him. "Oh, it's you again," she sighed, her voice a theatrical whisper that managed to convey an entire monologue of judgment. Her gaze swept over his slightly rumpled clothes, remnants of his hurried morning ritual to shed his billionaire skin. "Lyly's inside. still feeling under the weather. Lyly's mother, a woman who seemed to have perfected the art of passive-aggressive lament, quickly launched into a detailed account of her ailing health, punctuated by dramatic sighs. "The doctors say it's her heart, you know. Such a delicate organ. And the bills, Adam, the bills. It's simply too much for us. If only Lyly had met someone more stable." Her words, like tiny daggers, pricked at Adam's resolve. He knew she was referring to him, the supposed poor man who could barely make ends meet. He had been discreetly transferring substantial sums of money to their account, covering all medical expenses, and even sending anonymous care packages filled with expensive medication and gourmet food. Yet their gratitude was a mirage, shimmering, tantalizingly out of reach. Lyly emerged from the living room, her face etched with a familiar weariness. She was beautiful, undeniably so, but her beauty felt increasingly fragile, like a porcelain doll on the verge of cracking under external pressure. She offered him a fleeting, almost apologetic smile. "Adam, you're here." Her voice was flat, devoid of the warmth he once remembered. He could sense the shift in her, the subtle but undeniable pull of her family's influence. He saw the conflict in her eyes, a fleeting moment of genuine affection battling with the ingrained desire to please her parents, to conform to their high society expectations. Adam sat on the worn couch, its springs protesting beneath him. He listened patiently as Mrs. Dubois recounted her woes, her words a relentless current carrying him further into the depths of his disillusionment. "My daughter, she's so beautiful, so talented. She deserves the best, Adam, a man who can provide for her, truly provide." Her voice rose, taking on a theatrical timbre. "Someone with a future, not, well, you know." Her gaze lingered on his hands, noticing the absence of any extravagant watch, a subtle jab at his fabricated lack of wealth. He felt a profound sense of loneliness wash over him, a chilling awareness of the chasm between his true self and the impoverished caricature he presented. He looked at Lyly, hoping to find a flicker of defiance, a spark of the girl he thought he loved, the one who saw beyond superficialities. But her eyes, though soft, held a resignation that broke his heart. He saw the quiet understanding between her and her mother, a silent agreement that his current status was simply not enough. The air was thick with unspoken judgments, a palpable weight of expectation and disappointment. As he left the Dubois apartment, the cool city air felt like a balm on his skin, a sharp contrast to the suffocating atmosphere within. He walked not towards his waiting car, but aimlessly through the bustling streets. The encounter with Anna, the clumsy spill, played back in his mind. It was a fleeting, insignificant moment, yet it stood in stark relief against the calculated artifice of his life with Lyly. He found himself wondering about Anna, the genuine fear in her eyes, the earnestness of her apology. It was a refreshing anomaly in a world increasingly filled with carefully curated personas. He knew he couldn't abandon Lyly's family to their fate, not when her mother's health was truly at stake. His sense of responsibility, a deeply ingrained trait from his upbringing, wouldn't allow it. But the emotional toll was immense. He was a billionaire, capable of moving mountains, yet here he was, powerless against the tide of human greed and snobbery. The experiment was proving more painful than he had anticipated. He needed a plan, a way to test Lyly's true heart, to truly see if love could exist beyond the glittering veneer of wealth. And as the city lights began to twinkle, a tiny seed of an idea, sparked by a spilled cup of coffee and an earnest apology, began to take root in the desolate landscape of his heart. Could true character exist in unexpected places? He was determined to find out. The faint aroma of stale coffee still clung to Adam's custom-tailored shirt, a phantom reminder of the morning's clumsy encounter. But as he settled back into his real life, the world of boardrooms and multi-million-dollar deals, the brief, unsettling image of Anna's flustered face faded, replaced by the more pressing and increasingly irritating demands of Lyly's family. The charade was wearing thin, chafing against his pride like a poorly fitted suit. Each strained smile, each feigned sigh of financial woe felt like a betrayal of his true self. He had hoped to find genuine affection, a love that saw beyond zeros in a bank account, but what he encountered was a bottomless pit of expectation. The pressure from Lyly's family intensified with each passing day, escalating from subtle hints to outright demands. Mrs. Dubois, a master of emotional manipulation, had perfected a routine of dramatic sighs and woeful pronouncements. "My Lyly," she'd begin, her voice dripping with saccharine concern. "She works so hard, so tirelessly, to maintain her image. And for what? To be with someone who can't even provide the basic necessities a woman of her stature deserves?" Her eyes would then sweep over Adam, a silent condemnation of his supposed lack of ambition. Lyly's older sister, Chloe, a woman whose life seemed entirely dictated by designer labels and social climbing, was even more direct. "Honestly, Lyly, you're wasting your prime years. There are so many eligible bachelors out there, men who can actually give you the life you were born for." She'd often mention a certain Mr. Harrington, a real estate mogul's son, with a knowing look that made Adam's stomach clench. Lyly, caught in the relentless crosscurrents of her family's expectations and her own dwindling affections for Adam, began to visibly wilt. Her vibrant energy, once a beacon that had initially drawn Adam to her, now seemed to ebb, replaced by a sullen resignation. Their conversations became strained, filled with awkward silences and her thinly veiled complaints about his lack of progress. She'd lament, not about his personal shortcomings, but about his inability to step up and secure a better future, a future defined solely by material comforts. "Adam," she'd once said, her voice laced with a subtle disdain, "it's not just about love, is it? It's about stability. My mother, she needs security, and so do I." Her words were like pebbles dropped into a still pond, sending ripples of disappointment through Adam's carefully constructed facade. The girl he thought he knew, the one he believed might see beyond the superficial, was slowly dissolving, replaced by a shadow of her family's making. One evening, desperate to provoke a genuine reaction, to strip away the pretense and see if any shred of authentic feeling remained, Adam orchestrated a subtle revelation. He had arranged for a meeting with Lyly and her family at a moderately upscale restaurant, a place that hinted at comfort but stopped short of outright luxury. He casually mentioned a small investment he'd made, hinting at a surprising, though not extravagant. He spoke of it with a feigned modesty, watching their faces for a flicker of something other than greed. For a moment, a hush fell over the table. Then, like vultures sensing prey, their eyes sharpened. Mrs. Dubois leaned forward, her voice suddenly devoid of its usual mournful tone. "Oh, Adam, how wonderful! What kind of investment? Is it substantial?" Her eyes glittered with an almost comical avarice. Chloe, not to be outdone, quickly interjected. "You know, Lyly's always dreamed of a designer handbag, darling, something truly special. Perhaps with this new venture, you could finally surprise her." Their words were like acid, corroding the last vestiges of Adam's hope. There was no joy for his good fortune, only a calculation of how it could benefit them. Lyly, instead of expressing any personal happiness for him, turned to him with a list of her own. "Adam, my mother really needs that new medical device. And the rent, it's due soon. And I saw this beautiful dress." Her voice trailed off, her gaze fixed on him with a mixture of expectation and entitlement. It was a stark, brutal moment of clarity for Adam. He realized, with a sickening lurch in his gut, that their affection, if it ever existed, was purely transactional. Their smiles were for his potential, not for his person. The depth of their self-interest was a gaping chasm, swallowing any notion of genuine care. As Adam drove away from the restaurant that night, the bitter taste of disillusionment in his mouth, he felt a strange sense of unease. He glanced in his rearview mirror and saw a dark sedan, its headlights gleaming ominously, consistently maintaining a short distance behind him. He accelerated, then slowed, and the car mirrored his every move. His heart hammered against his ribs. Someone was following him. He was a master of evasion, a phantom in the shadows of the financial world, but this felt different. Could Lyly's family have hired someone to investigate him? Or was it connected to his true identity, a shadow from his billionaire life finally catching up? He made several evasive turns, cutting through alleyways and back streets, until he finally lost the tail. The incident left him shaken, a chilling reminder that his carefully constructed mask was not as impermeable as he believed. It also fueled a new, cynical suspicion. Were they truly so desperate and manipulative as to resort to such measures? The incident pushed Adam further into a cavern of cynicism. He began to question everything: the nature of love, the motives behind every kind word, every tender glance. The weight of his family's expectations for a swift marriage, coupled with the soul-crushing reality of Lyly's superficiality, began to suffocate him. He felt like a chess piece, constantly being moved by unseen hands, his own desires and emotions irrelevant. The thought of an arranged marriage, once a distant, abstract concept, now loomed like an executioner's axe. He found himself spending more time at the Sterling Corp building, burying himself in work, finding a perverse comfort in the objective nature of numbers and deals. It was a world where value was quantifiable, unlike the murky, shifting sands of human emotion. He often found himself, unconsciously, observing Anna. She was an anomaly in the polished, often cutthroat environment of Sterling Corp. Her interactions were marked by a refreshing lack of artifice. He saw her offering help to a struggling colleague, her brow furrowed in genuine concern as she guided them through a complex software. He overheard her patiently explaining a procedure to an elderly janitor who seemed confused. One afternoon, Adam witnessed Anna in the bustling company cafeteria. An elderly, somewhat disheveled cleaner accidentally dropped a tray of dishes, sending a cascade of shattering ceramic and spilled food across the floor. Most employees merely skirted the mess, their faces a mixture of annoyance and indifference. But Anna, without a moment's hesitation, knelt down, calmly helping the trembling cleaner pick up the shards, murmuring soothing words. She even offered to help clean the spill, a small yet profoundly human gesture amidst the hurried indifference. Adam watched, a silent observer, a strange warmth blooming in his chest. It was a simple act, yet it spoke volumes about her character. She didn't seek recognition, didn't make a show of it. She simply acted out of an intrinsic kindness. It was a stark, almost blinding contrast to the calculating self-interest that had become the defining characteristic of Lyly's world. A few days later, Adam received a frantic call from Lyly. Her mother's condition had suddenly worsened, requiring an urgent, expensive surgery, far beyond what his modest investment could cover, or so he pretended. Lyly's voice was laced with a desperate urgency, a stark shift from her usual detached demeanor. "Adam, please, you have to help us. No one else will. We're at our wits' end." This was the moment of truth. He knew the money was already there, hidden in plain sight within their accounts, But he wanted to see if she would acknowledge his past help, if she would truly appreciate his continued sacrifice, or if it would simply be another demand among many. He listened to her pleas, a heavy silence hanging in the air after she finished. His mind raced, calculating not only the financial implications, but the emotional cost of his prolonged charade. The bitterness of Lyly's family's constant demands, the crushing weight of his own family's expectations, and the unexpected, refreshing glimpse of Anna's genuine character swirled within him. He felt a profound sense of weariness, a longing for something real, something untainted by pretense or greed. He knew what he had to do, but the decision to continue this path, to continue playing the fool for Lyly, felt like a betrayal of his own soul. He ended the call with a non-committal response, leaving Lyly hanging in suspense, the phone growing heavy in his hand. The game was far from over, but the stakes were higher than ever, and a new player, an unwitting one, had quietly entered the field. The lingering echoes of Lyly's desperate plea for her mother's surgery still rang in Adam's ears, a discordant symphony of manipulation and genuine distress. He had agreed to help, of course, but the act felt hollow, stripped of any warmth. His generosity, once a hopeful bridge to Lyly's true affection, now felt like a leash. The incident with the tailing car had further solidified his cynicism, painting Lyly's family in an even darker hue of calculated opportunism. He questioned if their love was a performance, a carefully orchestrated play for his potential wealth. This internal turmoil, a war between his desire for authentic connection and the bitter reality of his charade, gnawed at him. Meanwhile, at the opulent Sterling family estate, a different kind of pressure mounted. His parents, pillars of New York high society, were relentless in their pursuit of a suitable match for him. The chosen bride, Eleanor Vance, was a socialite whose lineage was as impeccable as her diamond necklace, a perfect accessory to the Sterling name. Adam felt like a prized stallion being groomed for a show, his personal desires trampled under the heavy hoofbeats of duty and tradition. He hated the stifling elegance of their orchestrated dinners, the knowing glances of family friends, and the incessant chatter about legacy and appropriate alliances. He longed for a breath of fresh air, a moment of genuine, unscripted human connection. It was this yearning that inadvertently drew him deeper into Anna's orbit at Sterling Corp. The chaotic first encounter, the spilled coffee, had etched itself into his memory, not as an annoyance, but as a peculiar moment of unvarnished honesty. He began to observe her, not just as a new employee, but as a fascinating deviation from the predictable patterns of his life. Anna Ramirez was a quiet storm of resilience and unassuming grace. Her desk, though meticulously organized, held a small, slightly worn potted succulent, a splash of defiant green amidst the monochrome office landscape. Adam often found himself drawn to her corner of the bustling office, ostensibly for work-related queries, but in truth, to simply observe. He noticed the way her brow would furrow in concentration when she tackled a complex spreadsheet, or the patient kindness in her voice as she guided a bewildered intern through a new procedure. Unlike many of their colleagues who jockeyed for position and recognition, Anna moved with an effortless humility, her successes celebrated by quiet nods and grateful smiles from those she helped. She was an anchor in a sea of sharks, a quiet melody in a cacophony of ambition. One particularly grueling afternoon, a critical presentation was due, and the office was a hive of frantic activity. A senior manager, usually unflappable, was in a state of near panic, having misplaced crucial data. Most rushed past, offering platitudes or simply avoiding eye contact. But Anna, without a moment's hesitation, stepped forward. "Can I help, Mr. Thompson?" she asked, her voice calm amidst the rising tension. She spent the next hour, after her own work was done, meticulously re-entering data, her fingers flying across the keyboard with surprising speed and accuracy. Adam watched from his hidden vantage point, a silent witness to her quiet heroism. There was no fanfare, no expectation of praise, just a simple desire to alleviate another's stress. It was a stark, almost painful contrast to the calculated self-interest that Lyly's world thrived on. Adam found himself gravitating towards Anna, manufacturing excuses to interact with her. He'd ask for documents he already possessed, feign confusion over simple procedures, anything to draw her into conversation. "Anna," he'd begin, his voice surprisingly gentle, "could you help me with this report? The formatting is a bit tricky for me." Anna, always obliging, would patiently walk him through it, her explanations clear and concise. She never questioned his apparent cluelessness, never hinted at his presumed incompetence. Her earnestness was like a cool stream in a desert, refreshing her parched spirit. He found himself dissecting their brief conversations, savoring the genuine nature of her responses. She spoke of her family, her dreams of saving enough to help her younger brother attend college, her simple joy in a good book. These were not the grand, materialistic aspirations he was accustomed to. They were humble, heartfelt, and utterly real. One day, as Adam was discussing a fabricated problem with Anna, a notification flashed across his phone screen. It was a news alert, prominently featuring a blurred image of him exiting Lyly's humble apartment building, accompanied by a speculative headline. "Mysterious benefactor. Is local socialite Lyly Dubois hiding a secret lover?" The article, clearly planted by the tabloid-hungry neighbor from Chapter 2, subtly hinted at his disheveled appearance and raised questions about his true identity and intentions. Adam's heart leaped into his throat. He quickly angled the phone away, but he felt a cold dread trickle down his spine. Anna, surprisingly observant, noticed his sudden tension. "Everything all right, Mr. Sterling?" she asked, her eyes momentarily widening as they flickered towards the edge of his phone screen, catching a glimpse of the headline before he quickly locked it. He mumbled a hasty excuse, but a seed of curiosity, and perhaps a flicker of suspicion, had been planted in Anna's mind. The incident at the office, though quickly brushed aside, left Adam reeling. The tabloid article was a sharp reminder of the precariousness of his disguise. He had been so focused on Lyly and her family, he'd almost forgotten the watchful eyes that lurked in the shadows, waiting to unravel the carefully constructed tapestry of his life. He felt a newfound urgency to understand Anna, to see if her genuine kindness was truly as boundless as it seemed. The next week, Adam received a terse call from his mother. "Adam, your father and I have set the date. The engagement party for you and Eleanor will be in 2 months. Everything is arranged." The words hung in the air, a death knell to his freedom. He felt a profound sense of despair. His life, once a vibrant tapestry of choices, was slowly being woven into a suffocating shroud of expectation. He knew he couldn't go through with it. He needed a way out, a reason to defy his family's will, a genuine reason. It was during this time that he saw Anna interacting with his younger sister, Isabel Sterling. Isabel, a free spirit trapped in a gilded cage, often frequented the Sterling Corp offices, ostensibly for internship, but mostly to escape the stifling atmosphere of home. She was a budding artist, her vibrant personality often clashing with her parents' rigid expectations. Anna, with her inherent warmth, had somehow managed to break through Isabel's guarded exterior. Adam watched, hidden behind a partition, as Isabel confided in Anna about her dreams of attending art school in Paris, a dream vehemently opposed by their parents, who insisted she pursue a more sensible path. Anna listened, not with judgment, but with genuine empathy. "It's like they've already written my life for me," Isabel lamented, her voice raw with frustration. "They just don't understand." Anna nodded gently, her eyes understanding. "I get it," she said softly. "Sometimes The people who love us the most have the hardest time seeing who we truly are, beyond their own expectations. Her words resonated with Adam, striking a chord deep within his own conflicted soul. He saw a kindred spirit in Anna, someone who understood the silent burdens of expectation, the quiet battle to define oneself. A few days later, Lyly called him, her voice a cocktail of indignation and thinly veiled anger. "Adam, what is this I hear about you and some girl at your office? And those strange articles? What are you playing at? My mother heard about it, and she's furious. What kind of future can you offer me if you're involved in scandals?" She demanded an immediate explanation, her tone shifting from a plea for help to an accusation. Adam listened, a strange calm washing over him. The bitterness he once felt was replaced by a quiet sense of detachment. He realized, with a chilling certainty, that this was the end. His act, his carefully constructed disguise, had finally served its ultimate purpose. It had revealed the true nature of the hearts around him, and in the process, it had, unexpectedly, opened his own eyes to a different kind of truth. He had found something genuine, something worth fighting for, not in the calculated world of Lyly, but in the unassuming kindness of Anna. The silence after Lyly's furious call was deafening, a vacuum that Adam found surprisingly liberating. The final thread of obligation to that gilded cage had snapped. He had seen the true colors, not just of Lyly and her family, but of his own inner turmoil. The constant pretense had become a suffocating shroud, obscuring his vision and draining his spirit. Now, a different kind of clarity emerged. He saw Lyly's desperation as a desperate grab for what she perceived as security, not a genuine cry from the heart. The sting of her accusations about scandals felt like a distant echo, drowned out by a burgeoning sense of purpose. He was done with tests and disguises for people who didn't deserve his truth. His gaze now turned, almost instinctively, towards a different horizon. The pressure from his own family, however, remained a tightening vice. The impending engagement party with Eleanor Vance loomed like a thundercloud, threatening to engulf his future in a storm of societal expectations. His mother, an iron fist in a velvet glove, subtly increased her surveillance, her eyes like hawks on Adam's every move. He felt like a rare exhibit, meticulously curated for public display, destined to be paired with an equally perfect specimen. The thought of Eleanor with her polished smile and pre-approved opinions sent a chill down his spine. He needed an escape, a justifiable rebellion, something real to cling to amidst the artifice. It was during this period of intense personal reflection that Adam found himself increasingly drawn to Anna, an unwitting beacon of authenticity in his manufactured world. He no longer simply observed her, he actively sought her out, not for fabricated work problems, but for the quiet solace her presence brought. He'd arrive at the office earlier, linger later, subtly positioning himself where he might catch a glimpse of her, or orchestrate a chance encounter. He learned of her morning routine, a quick stop at a small independent coffee shop down the street, rather than the corporate cafeteria. One crisp autumn morning, he coincidentally found himself there. "Anna," he greeted, a genuine smile playing on his lips, a rare sight for most at Sterling Corp. She looked up, surprised, a gentle blush creeping up her neck. "Mr. Sterling," she replied, her voice soft, a hint of surprise in her hazel eyes. They spoke of trivial things, the weather, the upcoming company picnic, but Adam found himself mesmerized by the simple honesty in her voice, the unpretentious warmth of her smile. There were no hidden agendas, no subtle digs, just an easy, comfortable conversation. Their interactions at the office became more frequent, blossoming from polite exchanges into something akin to a quiet camaraderie. Adam would bring her a specialty coffee, claiming he had an extra, or offer a pastry he supposedly bought too many of. Anna, always gracious, would accept with a grateful nod, never questioning his sudden generosity. He found himself sharing snippets of his ordinary life, carefully curated details that hinted at struggles, at ambitions yet to be realized. He spoke of his modest apartment and his hopes for a promotion, watching her eyes for any sign of judgment or pity. But there was none, only genuine interest and occasionally a shared laugh over mundane office quirks. Anna, in turn, began to open up. She spoke of her family in Queens, a vibrant, close-knit tapestry woven with laughter, challenges, and unwavering support. Her younger brother, Matteo, was her world. He was a gifted artist, accepted into a prestigious art program, but the tuition was a mountain they struggled to climb. Anna worked tirelessly, taking on extra shifts, saving every penny, a quiet, unwavering force against financial odds. "He deserves it," she'd say, her eyes shining with fierce devotion. "He sees the world differently. He needs the chance to show it." Adam listened, his heart aching with a profound respect. Here was genuine selflessness, a love that transcended personal gain. One afternoon, Adam witnessed a deeply troubling incident. He saw Chloe Dubois, Lyly's sister, corner Anna by the water cooler. Chloe, her face a mask of barely controlled fury, was clutching a crumpled newspaper. "So you're the little secretary playing games with Adam, are you?" Chloe hissed, her voice dripping with venom. "Do you have any idea who Adam is, or who we are? You think a girl like you can just waltz in and steal what's rightfully ours?" She brandished the newspaper, a prominent photo of Adam with a blurred Lyly, and the headline, "Sterling Heirs Shady Affairs," referring to the misleading tabloid article Lyly's family had planted. Chloe was clearly attempting to twist the old misinterpreted tabloid story to portray Adam as a dangerous, shady individual, and Anna as a naive victim being lured into something sinister. She threatened Anna, warning her to stay away from Adam or face consequences that could jeopardize her job. Anna, though visibly shaken, stood her ground, her voice trembling but firm. "I don't know what you're talking about, ma'am. Mr. Sterling is a colleague, and I'm just doing my job." Her defiance, even in the face of such aggressive intimidation, stirred a fierce, protective instinct in Adam. He felt a surge of rage, barely restrained, at Chloe's blatant cruelty. He decided then and there that he had to act. He intervened discreetly, ensuring that Chloe was seen by security, and politely but firmly escorted out of the building. He later had a quiet conversation with Mr. Thompson, Anna's direct supervisor, subtly hinting at unprofessional behavior from an outside visitor and emphasizing Anna's exceptional work ethic and dedication. Mr. Thompson, a man who respected competence above all else, assured Anna that Anna's position was secure. But the incident left a lingering chill. Adam knew this was just the beginning of Lyly's family's retaliation. The encounter with Chloe, however, had an unexpected side effect. Isabel Sterling, who often roamed the office observing, had witnessed part of the confrontation. She approached Anna later that day, her eyes filled with a mixture of curiosity and concern. "Are you okay?" Isabel asked, a rare softness in her voice. "Chloe can be a lot." Anna, still shaken, managed a weak smile. This shared moment of vulnerability forged an unexpected bond between them. Isabel, who had always felt isolated by her family's expectations, found an unlikely confidant in Anna. She confided in Anna about her struggles with their parents, her dreams of art school, and her resentment at the arranged marriage proposal for Adam. Anna, in turn, offered not just sympathy, but genuine advice, drawing from her own experiences of striving for her brother's dreams. "It's hard when your family has such strong ideas about your future," Anna said, her voice gentle. But you have to hold on to what truly makes you happy. That's your compass. Her words resonated deeply with Isabel, who saw in Anna not just a kind colleague, but a kindred spirit who understood the silent battles of identity. This shared secret, this quiet understanding, solidified Isabel's growing admiration for Anna. She began to subtly champion Anna to Adam, praising her character, her resilience, and her genuine warmth. The climax of the chapter arrived swiftly and dramatically. Adam's parents, having received word of the mounting scandals surrounding Adam and his involvement with Lyly's family, as well as the whispers about Anna, demanded a family meeting. They presented Adam with an ultimatum. Either he publicly announce his engagement to Eleanor Vance at a gala they were hosting in a week, putting an end to all unseemly rumors, or face severe financial repercussions that would affect his personal projects and charities. They even hinted at jeopardizing his sister Isabel's future endeavors, a cruel blow designed to force his hand. Adam stood before them, the weight of their expectations a suffocating blanket. He looked at his father's stern, unyielding face, his mother's perfectly composed mask of disapproval. He knew this was his last chance, his final stand against a life he no longer desired. He thought of Lyly, her empty pleas, her family's insatiable greed. Then he thought of Anna, her earnest apology, her quiet kindness, her unwavering loyalty to her brother's dreams. He saw her face, clear and bright, a beacon of genuine humanity in a world of artifice. A decision, firm and resolute, solidified in his mind. He would not sacrifice his soul for an empty legacy. He would fight for a future defined by truth, not by wealth. The stage was set, the players in position. The true test of hearts was about to begin. The family gala, a dazzling affair of old money and new ambition, glittered under the chandeliers of the sterling grand ballroom. The air, thick with the scent of expensive perfume and whispered expectations, felt like a pressure cooker to Adam. His parents, resplendent in their evening wear, moved through the crowd with the effortless grace of seasoned royalty, their smiles unwavering, their eyes scanning for Eleanor Vance, their chosen queen. Adam, standing by a towering marble column, felt like a statue himself, carved into a destiny he no longer desired. His resolve, forged in the fires of disillusionment and tempered by Anna's unassuming kindness, was now as unyielding as the granite beneath his feet. This was it, the final act. Lyly, a vision in a shimmering gown, arrived with her family, an uninvited but meticulously planned appearance. Her eyes, usually clouded with discontent, now held a fierce, predatory gleam. She had heard whispers, fragmented rumors, and her suspicion had crystallized into a desperate conviction that Adam was not just a wealthy man, but her wealthy man. She clung to Adam's arm, a possessive gesture that felt like a cold, desperate plea. Adam, she purred, her voice a low murmur. "Darling, we have so much to talk about. These rumors, they're simply ridiculous. Our future, it's always been clear, hasn't it?" Her touch was a branding iron, leaving an unpleasant mark on his skin. Suddenly, a commotion erupted near the entrance. Eleanor Vance, Adam's intended fiancée, swept in, flanked by her own formidable parents. Her eyes, sharp as a hawk's, immediately locked onto Lyly's hand on Adam's arm. A collective gasp rippled through the room as the tension became palpable, a silent battle of wills playing out before the elite of New York. The air crackled with anticipation, every head turning, every ear straining. Just then, Anna, having been invited by Isabel to witness the drama, appeared hesitantly at the edge of the ballroom. She wore a simple, elegant dress, a stark contrast to the glittering opulence surrounding her, yet she possessed a quiet dignity that shone brighter than penny diamond. Her eyes, wide with a mixture of curiosity and apprehension, found Adam's. A silent plea seemed to pass between them, a desperate connection in the swirling vortex of expectation. Adam, seeing Anna, felt a sudden surge of clarity, a profound sense of rightness. The past few months, the charade, the emotional bruising, it all led to this moment. He gently but firmly removed Lyly's hand from his arm. "Lyly," he said, his voice carrying surprising authority, cutting through the murmurs. "There is nothing to discuss. Our future was never clear, not in the way you envision." He then stepped forward, his gaze sweeping across the stunned faces of his family, Eleanor's family, and the curious throng of guests. The microphone that was meant for the engagement announcement now felt like a tool for truth. "Ladies and gentlemen," Adam's voice boomed, amplified by the sound system, silencing the entire ballroom. His parents looked on, aghast, their faces paling. Eleanor's expression morphed from irritation to utter bewilderment. "For months," Adam continued, his voice gaining strength, "I have lived a lie, a disguise. Not to deceive, but to understand, to find out what truly matters." He looked directly at Lyly and her family, their faces now a grotesque tableau of shock and confusion. "I have provided for you, Lyly, for your mother, quietly and consistently, under the guise of poverty. I wanted to see if genuine affection, genuine gratitude, could exist beyond the trappings of wealth." The words hung in the air, heavy and undeniable. Mrs. Dubois' jaw dropped, her face slack with disbelief. Chloe, her eyes darting frantically around the room, seemed on the verge of collapse. Lyly's face, once composed, crumbled, a mixture of shame, fury, and dawning comprehension warring within her. The truth, like a tidal wave, had hit them with brutal force. The man they had scorned, the poor man they had used and manipulated, was the very billionaire they had so desperately craved. "And what I found," Adam continued, his voice laced with a raw honesty that silenced even the most hardened socialites, "was not the love I sought. It was a hunger for what I had, not for who I was." He then turned, his gaze softening, his eyes locking with Anna's. The entire room followed his gaze, focusing on the unassuming young woman at the edge of the crowd. "However," Adam said, his voice now imbued with a gentle warmth, "in this journey of deception, I found something unexpected. I found integrity. I found kindness. I found a spirit that shines brighter than any diamond, and a heart purer than any gold." He extended his hand towards Anna, a silent invitation, a profound declaration. "Anna Ramirez," he announced, his voice ringing with a newfound conviction, "is not a socialite, nor does she come from a world of privilege. She is a woman of true character, of unwavering compassion, and of profound selflessness. And it is with her, and only her, that I choose to build my future." A stunned silence enveloped the ballroom. Then, a single, clear voice broke through the quiet. It was Isabel Sterling. She stepped forward, a defiant glint in her eyes, and walked directly to Anna, taking her hand. "Anna," she said, her voice clear and strong, "is the kindest person I know. She deserves happiness more than anyone here." Her unexpected support, a crack in the Sterling family's united front, sent another ripple of shock through the room. Adam's parents were speechless, their carefully constructed world crumbling around them. Eleanor Vance, her face a mask of furious humiliation, stalked out of the ballroom, her parents following close behind.
Lyly, her eyes blazing with a mixture of disbelief and utter desolation, pushed through the crowd, desperate to salvage what she now realized she had carelessly thrown away. "Adam, no! This is a mistake! We were meant to be! I love you, I swear." Her words, once powerful tools of manipulation, now sounded hollow, pathetic, stripped of their power. Adam looked at her, his expression a mixture of pity and finality. "No, Lyly," he said softly. "You loved what you thought I was. You loved the idea of wealth, not the man. You had your chance, and you chose to squander it with disdain and greed." The truth hung between them, a tangible weight. Lyly stared at him, her beautiful face contorted by the agony of what she had lost. The life she had always felt entitled to, the wealth she had craved, had been within her grasp, and she, with her own hands, had pushed it away. The realization was a bitter, agonizing poison, consuming her with a deep, searing regret that would haunt her for years. Her family, standing rigid with shame and fury, could only watch, their dreams of marrying into the sterling fortune reduced to ashes. Anna, overwhelmed yet incredibly touched, walked towards Adam, her hand trembling slightly as she placed it in his. The warmth of his touch was grounding, a promise of a different kind of future. She looked into his eyes, seeing not a billionaire, but the kind, complex man who had subtly helped her, who had seen her for who she was, despite his own hidden burdens. The Sterling family's initial shock slowly morphed into grudging acceptance, especially with Isabel's fervent support. Adam spent the following weeks navigating the fallout, deftly managing the media frenzy, protecting Anna from the relentless glare of public scrutiny. He unveiled his true identity to her in a private, heartfelt conversation, explaining the complex reasons behind his disguise. Anna, though initially stunned, understood. Her trust in him, built on acts of genuine kindness rather than grand gestures, remained unbroken. The story of the billionaire's disguise became a sensation, not for its wealth, but for its message. Adam and Anna, hand in hand, defied societal expectations. They held a small, intimate wedding, a quiet affair compared to the grandiosity of what could have been. Their life together was a testament to simplicity and authenticity, a stark contrast to the hollow opulence Adam had once sought to escape. Adam continued his philanthropic work, but now with Anna by his side, her empathy and practicality adding a new dimension to his generosity. He found a deeper purpose, not in accumulating more, but in giving back, in building a legacy of genuine impact. Lyly and her family, forever haunted by the specter of their missed opportunity, became a cautionary tale in their social circles, their regret a silent, constant companion. The final scene sees Adam and Anna, years later, walking hand in hand through a quiet park, their laughter echoing through the trees. They stop by a small, thriving community garden, a project Anna had championed. Matteo, Anna's brother, now a successful artist, approaches them, his face beaming. He shows them a sketch, a vibrant, heartfelt portrayal of three hands intertwined, Adam's, Anna's, and Isabel's, reaching for the sky. It was a simple image, yet it captured the profound truth of their journey, that true wealth lies not in what one possesses, but in the genuine connections forged, the kindness extended, and the unwavering courage to be truly, beautifully oneself. After the story, thank you for listening to The Billionaire's Disguise, A Test of Hearts. This story reminds us that true value isn't measured in dollars, but in the integrity of one's character. It teaches us that genuine connections built on kindness and authenticity outshine the most dazzling facades. Let's remember to look beyond the surface, to appreciate the quiet acts of compassion, and to value hearts that beat with true sincerity. What did you learn from Adam and Anna's journey? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and spread this message of true love. Thank you.